There's nothing I'd rather do tonight than answer a lot of questions, okay? I'd love to answer all your questions. Hopefully you all can understand this is somewhat of a fluid situation, and candidly, on a lot of the matters you'd like to ask questions about, I don't know any more than you guys do, okay? So I did think it's important because I've been very out front since August 3rd when we appeared to talk to you all. And I saw everybody here for the draft and the pre-draft party, but candidly, I didn't want to distract from the draft because the draft's all about football and the future of the Browns. So I thought it was important tonight, which is really the first time I've been back for any time period since the draft, to just spend a little time talking about what's happened since April 15th. And let me start by saying this. I apologize to the city of Cleveland, Northeastern Ohio, and all Browns fans, because the last thing we ever wanted to do as a new owner was detract from football and the Browns and, you know, just what a great football area this is. And so I apologize for that. We feel badly about it. We're very comfortable we'll work through this situation, but I did want to say that publicly. Let me just take you all through, and a lot of this, some of you were actually in Knoxville for a couple of our press conferences, is not going to be new news. But let me just go back to April 15th when the FBI came into our building and took a lot of information. And candidly, we were confused, didn't really understand exactly what was going on, had heard it had to do something with rebates we paid to trucking companies. On April 18th, 4 days later, they released their affidavit that they used to get a search warrant, and in it, I guess it was good news, bad news. The good news is we understood what the issue was, and the bad news, and it was really sickening to me, candidly, was the apparent behavior of some of our salespeople. Behavior that's not characteristic of how the 20,000 plus employees at PFJ act and behave toward anybody. We don't talk that way, we don't act that way. And candidly, it was behavior that particularly was improper toward customers. And I read it really, it came out Thursday afternoon, I read it Thursday night and was literally almost sick at my stomach, candidly, because it's, number one, it was embarrassing, and like I said, number two, it's not how we act. Over the weekend, worked diligently, and on Monday, April 22nd, you all probably all seen it, we held a conference in which we announced 5 steps. Number one, we were going to pull our entire internal audit team, and you have to remember we operate over 600 truck stops spread out all over the country and handle a tremendous amount of cash. And so our internal audit team, for the most part, is focused on our stores. We pulled them back in. They're going to do an internal audit story, and I've said this very publicly and very privately that if, in fact, we did shortchange anyone on any rebate program, that we'd write them a check with interest and pay them back. And we have, in fact, written several checks since we started the investigation. I would like for that internal audit group to work out to things as quickly as possible. I think you all know I'm very impatient, but the important thing is I've told trucking companies, I've probably talked to literally 250 to 300 trucking companies the last 3 weeks, is the important thing is to get it right. And I'd like to wrap things up by the end of the month, but if it takes until early June or early July, we're going to get the numbers right, and if we owe XYZ trucking company, we'll write them a check on the spot. Second thing we've done is we've suspended several members of our sales team, and I think that was absolutely the proper thing to do given the circumstances. Third thing we did is these, quote, manual transactions, and I won't bore you with the detail of those. We're beginning to put in process or into our system different processes where they're done electronically, and just for layman's terms, that means there's no opportunity for human intervention, if you will. That'll be done by June 30th. You probably say, why can't you do it sooner? There's customers who are involved, and candidly, some of the customers like the way they're getting their payments, and we've got to work with the customers, do the right thing for the customers, get them changed over. The fourth thing we're going to do is install a compliance officer in Pilot Flying J. And candidly, you all haven't known us for that long. Pilot Flying J has doubled in size over the last 5 years, really since 2008, and with that growth has come a lot of great things. I'm not sure in certain areas we had the proper checks and balances in place, and so this compliance officer will report to general counsel, reports to me, I think will help us put those checks and balances in place. We have begun talking to people with great experience in that area, and I feel confident here again by June 30th. Key is to get the right person or people that will have that in place. The fifth thing we've done is, and this was announced last week, is appoint a special independent counsel, if you will, investigator, whatever term you want to use, who will report to the board, not to me, who will report to the board, who will do their own investigation. And individual's name is Reed Weingarten, probably not somebody any of you would normally have heard of. I hadn't heard of, but very well respected, reputation is impeccable, and he'll do his own independent investigation. And this is something that, remember, we're a private company, we're not a public company. This is something we don't have to do, but I think it's just so important internally and externally that we get this right, that we've not only agreed to do it, we've volunteered to do it on our own. And I think his investigation will probably take several months. So once again, very embarrassed. Pilot Flying J has been in business starting with Pilot, now Pilot Flying J for 54 years. It's a family business, as you all know, and that's not how we act, not how we do things. And it's, I think it's a company that's had really as good a reputation as anybody in the business, and that reputation has been tarnished. And as I said, on April 22nd, we're going to begin to rebuild that reputation. I mean, today before I came to Cleveland, we had a little get-together with the Cleveland Clinic earlier, and then gave the brief talk tonight. I've been out calling on trucking companies, and first of all, apology, and second of all, asking for a second chance, because like I said, this is not how we act, it's not how we treat people, and we're going to begin to rebuild our reputation. We understand it will take a long time to do, but hey, we're big boys, and we've been in business 54 years, and I hope we're in business another 54 years, candidly. So that's all I have to say. Like I said, I would love to take questions. I will switch subjects briefly and talk about football. And I don't know if you all were out there, but I feel like we've had a really good off season. I will say this, and I've seen some comments. I had the privilege of sitting in the draft room Thursday night, Friday night, and all day Saturday. And there's periods where it's really boring, but there's periods where it's really interesting. And I had the opportunity to watch Ray and Mike and Joe and Rob interact. And I know there's been some comments that maybe it's not great teamwork, but I've never seen four people work together in a positive manner better than those guys did. And it wasn't all agreement. There was a lot of disagreement and a lot of conversation going back and forth, but very excited about the draft we had. I think people forget that we got Devon Bess, who I think is a hell of a player and the kind of player that makes a big difference, kind of guy that knows how to get first downs on third down, and was a teammate of Chad Pennington. You know, Chad is from Knoxville and a good friend of ours, and Chad relayed to me through a good friend of his that Devon was one of the best teammates he's ever had. So very excited about the guys we picked up. Going home tonight and be out calling on trucking companies the next 2.5 days, but be back up here for practice. We'll have everybody here Friday afternoon, Saturday afternoon, and Sunday, and really excited about our schedule. As I'm remarked in there, I think we've got a great home schedule. You know, opening up with the Dolphins at home, having a Thursday night national TV game, which I don't think we've had since maybe 8 or 9. I think it's going to be great for our fans, and I think we'll have a better football team this year. As I've said on several occasions, we're going to do this the right way, and it's not going to have an overnight. You don't go from winning 14 games in 3 years to winning 14 games in 1 year, but I'm convinced we'll have a better team this year, and we'll be better in 14. And I think Joe articulated very well after the draft. We stand very accountable for what happens this year, and we're not at all, you know, throwing this year away. We think it's very important. We think we'll have a good team, and I think we put together a really good coaching staff. And the intensity in the building, several of the players have remarked to me, the intensity in the building, in the weight room, on the practice field is definitely amped up, and I think that'll result in a better football team. So I appreciate everybody coming tonight, and I'll be up here this weekend to watch practice and look forward to it. And
Can we ask you
go Browns.
questions?